The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of BYU and Utah football and the expanded Big 12 Conference. Brought to you by Macy's Grocery Stores. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. It is First and 12. Happy Sunday to you. Alex Kirry here in Salt Lake City. Mitch Harper still waiting to take a plane back to Utah. Just dragging his feet a little bit in that warm weather down in Tempe. I am wearing my First and 12 jacket, I'll have you know, because it's cold here in the state of Utah, even though it was nice and toasty down there in Tempe yesterday. Even though BYU lost 28-23, the final there. And Utah, of course, falls at home as well. Up at Rice Eccles on Senior Day to Iowa State 31-28. But the shifting around of this power poll, I mean, it's just like the amount of work we have to do every week, the mental gymnastics, because of how wild this conference has been, has given us some wild power rankings. So let's jump in to another version of our power rankings.
The Big 12 Power Rankings, a weekly rank of all 16 programs, from the elite to the bottom dwellers.
I think the Levitt family is going to be happy with this week's Power Rankings. Sam Levitt and crew. The number one team in this week's Big 12 Power Rankings here on First and 12. It's the pride of Tempe, the Arizona State Sun Devils, sitting at 9-2 atop the Big 12. They're tied in a four-way tie, but they control their destiny. Arizona State number one, and I don't think you can argue with this, Alex, because they're the only team in the league that had a perfect home record this year. They're the only team that went unscathed, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
You'd think there'd be a few others. They were the only one to defend home turf, and hey, lo and behold, that bore out to where they're in the lead now, and they control their destiny to Arlington.
Yeah, and what's crazy is as a 9-2 team, they can go 10-2 next week if they beat their in-state rival Arizona, and that's just a wild place for Kenny Dillingham and his guys to be, considering where they were last year. And that's been a storyline for a couple of teams in the conference this year, BYU being one of them, of course. But I think that Kenny Dillingham has probably put himself firmly on that path to be the coach of the year, if not in the country, at the very least in the Big 12. And that's saying something, considering that a lot of coaches have done a lot of crazy things this year that have put their teams up there up top. So Arizona State definitely deserves to be top. Iowa State eking out a win at Utah. They're probably going to go up a couple of spots in the rankings. Speaking of going up some spots, Arizona State's likely going to be the top-ranked team in the AP poll when it comes out in the next little while. And then on Tuesday for the college football playoff rankings, I bet Arizona State's going to be the highest-ranked Big 12 team. Iowa State, number 2 in our power poll. That puts BYU at number 3, thanks to Colorado, who's at number 4, who lost to Kansas. And so that top 4 has been mixed up a little bit along the way here, but those are your 4 teams that are tied at the top. Those are the 4 teams who still have a mathematical possibility to get into the Big 12 championship game. And so everything's going to come down to next week. So there's your top 4 there, Mitch. And frankly, the number 5 team, I would almost fight somebody to say that they could be up at the very top if it weren't for their record.
And that team is the Kansas Jayhawks, coming in at 5-6, but they are rolling right now. And this highlights a power ranking, because at season's end, there's not many teams playing at a higher level than Kansas. And the Jayhawks, it's well-deserved. You go through 3 weeks of facing top 25 opposition, do or die. You got to win and keep your bowl hopes alive. Kansas is playing at a high level, and I cannot wait for them to play this week against our number 6 team, Baylor, who is also flying high. And I was, hesitant to knock Baylor, but I feel like Kansas's wins as of late have been better than Baylor.
Yeah.
But they get to settle on the field this week. Baylor's on a 5-game winning streak, Alex. They're playing some great football, too. They just had that slow start to the season, or else, I mean, honestly, Alex, if you were saying, like, who are the 2 teams you don't want to face right now, it might be Kansas and Baylor. They might be the 2 teams that are the best, like the best in the league with how they're playing right now. Not the whole body of work, but like right now in this moment, these 2 teams are playing at a really high level.
A month and a half ago when Arizona State and Kansas met, it was one of those 4-point games that Kansas lost. They lost so many games that were 1 score or under 4 or under 3 points, and Arizona State beat Kansas Iowa State, BYU, and Colorado, who are 2, 3, and 4 in our power rankings, all have lost to Kansas just in the last 3 weeks. It's pretty insane. Baylor at 6, like you said. Kansas State is at 7. They're a 7-win team, and they just blew the doors off of Cincinnati. And BYU fans are hoping that they can keep that going because they go to Ames next week. And look, Chris Kleiman and his guys, this is not a bad season. Just one of those teams that everybody thought was going to be in that 2, 3, or 4 kind of category. They were maybe even fighting for the top of the league.
And K-State still, if you want to get real wild with these Big 12 championship scenarios, and we'll get more official word from the Irving headquarters, but they still have a slight chaos, possibility with K-State maybe getting to Arlington. Number 8, TCU. They get a sound victory this weekend. Number 9, West Virginia, I thought a solid win. They get to bowl eligibility, and that was critical for Neil Brown. You didn't want to see him, get to a situation where he's facing a losing record because, again, you talked about it earlier. It feels like that fan base always wants to fire him. But he's done a really good job. As far as schedules go, he's had probably the toughest schedule among anyone in the league, and he's got to 6 wins. It's a good football program. It just maybe feels like a little bit of a step back because of the win total, but they have faced a gauntlet of a schedule, and they got a nice win over the weekend over UCF. Number 10, Texas Tech. Texas Tech's a team that they got a nice win over Oklahoma State, but he gave up 48 points to the worst team in the league. I still don't feel like Texas Tech has jumped up to where I feel like among the best programs in the Big 12 right now.
I think you're dissing. I think you're absolutely dogging Joey McGuire and his guys. You know why? Because Texas Tech has a rare thing that they did this year. They beat Arizona State. They're one of the conference losses there. Arizona State. And by the way, they're a 7-4 team. So it's just weird because you know how we talk about this Kansas team being they were the best 3-6 team. Oh, they're the best 4-6 team, and now they're the best 5-6 team in the country. Texas Tech might be the worst 7-4 team in the country just because of how every week is a freaking shootout. Like, they have to score 56 points or they don't win games. I mean, they gave up 48. They had to score 56 to be able to do it. So, but Texas Tech, 7 wins for them. And so good on Joey McGuire. I don't know if anybody's going to be super excited about how things have gone there in Lubbock, but it is what it is. West Virginia at 10, UCF at 11. They've been just kind of middle of the road. Everybody thought they were going to kind of turn a corner there after they got the Rizzler playing quarterback for him, Dylan Riz.
12 for UCF.
Oh, sorry, 12 for UCF. I was looking at UCF 12. Cincinnati was 11, and Cincinnati just is absolute question mark for me. I don't know what that team's doing, but they just got the heck beat out of them by Kansas State. Houston at 13. That's another team that has overperformed considering that we thought they were going to be dead last or one of the dead last.
That's a good spot for Houston. 13 for most teams would be a terrible spot, but for Houston in year one with really Fritz, I think there's better days ahead for that program.
For sure.
Because that roster got raided in the portal after that coaching change, and for them to even be a 3-win team in league, and they were competitive on Saturday against Baylor. They had those beautiful "Love You Blue" jerseys. I love those; those were awesome.
The ones that the Texans or the Titans are trying
Oilers.
to sue them over. Yeah.
Yes.
The Titans are like, excuse you, that's our former team, and everyone's like, this feels weird. Houston at 13, Arizona, massive question mark. I have no idea what this team is doing, but another loss for them yesterday, and I don't know what to think of this Arizona team. They're also a massive disappointment. These last 3 teams in the conference rankings or in the power rankings that we have, Arizona at 14, Utah at 15, and Oklahoma State at 16. Those might be the saddest stories in all of college football this year. And I'm not saying that's
true.
It really is. Like, think of what Arizona was supposed to be with Ted McMillan and Noah Fafita. They're at 14. Utah, I'm not kidding. When you go to there's the power rankings, and then there's the conference standings. When it has Utah 15th place in the Big 12, it says it right next to their name. You're like, this is unimaginable to me. It just seems so wild to see that. And the only other team that outdoes Utah on the losing streak side of things is the now 8 losses in a row Oklahoma State Cowboys, who were in the Big 12 championship game last year. So those are our power rankings for this week, Mitch. I think we did a good job this one. We actually agreed.
I think we did. Our penultimate power rankings of the season, and I think it was a solid effort in our Big 12 power rankings because this league, it's so wild because really the margin from about even 1 to 6, it's pretty thin. I mean,
Yeah.
if Arizona State and Baylor lined it up today, it's probably a 3-point spread. Like, that's just what this league is built on. So you can get wild outcomes, and trying to comb through these teams and find their flaws week to week. It's a fascinating study, and it's been really interesting to kind of rank these teams, and it just continues to be a really fun league each week, and we like to highlight it here on First and 12. We're taking our final time out here on the program. Coming up next, we'll look ahead to what is coming up on the Week 14 schedule. We got some Friday football on Black Friday, and also a loaded, basically get you ready for championship week Saturday here in the Big 12 Conference. It's First and 12. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry on the KSL Sports Zone and KSL News Radio. Appreciate all of you being here with us on this Sunday.